Okay, so yesterday we talked about the cut-off genealogy in Va'era. So when I was washing the dishes yesterday, I was listening to a share by Rav Yeshua Shapira from the Meyun Tanakh, because I saw he gave a share on the Minyan HaKatua in Va'era. So I figured I'd listen. I was like, oh, maybe he'll say similar things to what we saw. Then I listened to it, and I realized that he's right, that I missed a lot. I'm not sure I agree with everything in his analysis, but there was something very big I missed in this. So let's go back to it, okay? And I don't think that what we said yesterday is not, plausible, but let's note something even weirder, okay? Because it's weirder than I thought it was, okay? So let's get back. We'll get back to Levi, right? So that's Levi. We got ve'ela shmot b'nei Levi l'toldo tam gerishonu ka'anu mirari u'shnei chayei Levi sheva u'shloshim ma'at. So far, that makes sense. Levi had children and he lived this long. Great. B'nei gerishon livni v'shemin l'mishpachotam. Normal. Great. U'b'nei kahat Amram v'Yitzhar v'Chevron v'Uziel. Ushnei chayei kahat shalosh u'shloshim ma'at. Normal? Fine. Uvnei merari machli u'mushi ela mishbechot ha'levi l'toldotam. Okay, somewhat plausible. Then you get vayikach Amram et Yocheved, and we talked about that. But now it gets weird, because if this was just about Moshe, so then, once we got to Kahat and we got to Amram, so then what should we do? Moshe, Aharon, and just stop. We don't need all the other families of Levium, but we get them. Well, no, we don't. See, either you should get all of them or you should only get Moshe's. Neither of those happen. We only get some of them, right? We get Uvnei Yitzhar, Korach, Vanefer, V'Zichri, right? You get this. You get that the children of Yitzhar are Korach, Nefeg, and Zichri. Uvnei Uziel, Mishael, Belsavan, V'Sitri. And then you get this very bizarre pasuk. Vayikach Aharon et Elisheva bar Aminadav achot Nachshon lo liisha v'til lo et Nadav et Avihu ve'Elazar ve'et Tamar. And Aharon married Elisheva, the sister of Nachshon, and had 4 children: Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, and Tamar. Uvnei Korach Asir ve'Elkanah v'Aviasaf ela mishpachot ha'karchi. And then you get the children of Korach. And then you get the grandchildren of Aharon. Ve'elazar ben Aharon lakachnu b'bnot Putiel lo lisha v'ateled lo et Pinchas. Ela rashi avot ha'leviim l'shbechotam. So, let's review, even within this cutoff list, which we talked about yesterday, the continued weirdness, which is that of the children of Levi, you get Aharon's children and grandchildren, Korach's children, and not Moshe's children. Okay? That is what you get. Okay, again, you get Aaron's children and grandchildren up to Pinchas. You get Korach's children, but you don't get Moshe's children. Okay? Yeah, we never talk about Moshe's children ever. Yeah, we got that. But this list is really, it's not just that it's cut off. It's that even when it is cut off, Moshe and Aharon seem to be the heroes, except Moshe's children aren't there. Aaron's grandchildren even get in, and Korach's children get in, which is completely unintelligible. Okay, so this is what Rav Yeshua Shapira pointed out. And he said that he thinks the key to understanding it is from a tefillah that we say once a year, that seems to be based on Va'era Perek Vav. Yes, that was my luck. When I was listening, I'm like, really? What is he talking about? I was doing dishes, and whatever. And then he said, it is from Tfilat Yom HaKippurim. Yes, where in Tfilat Yom HaKippurim? What? Yes, thank you. Right, very good. Where in Tfilat Yom HaKippurim? Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten this either, right? Amitz Koach, the introductory piyut to the Seder HaAvodah. Why? Because listen to the following, okay? So the Seder Avodah opens with this story. Amitz Koach, Habir V'Rovonim, right? Oh, mighty one, etc., etc. And it tells the following story of the world, okay? It tells you that Adam was born, and you built and you planted a tree in Gan Eden. And then it tells the story of Cain and Hevel and v'chulei v'chulei. And then it tells you the story in Tet of Ta'un Gofer Noshaka Kisagarta Ba'ado. Tarfu B'chom Homim V'Zarvdu Nitzmatu, the story of Noach, right? That the arrogant ones were cut off and Noach was saved in the Teva. And then it tells you that Avram was born, Yedid Atui Ever Yidacha Ba'olam. And then in Lamed, it concludes the history of the world as follows. Lishartecha Ivita Levi Ish Chasidecha. To serve you, you chose Levi. Lahavdil Migiz'o Mukdash Kodesh Kodashim. To designate from him one of his children to go into the Holy of Holies, or to be Holy of Holies. Likshor Nezer Kodesh V'la'atot Urim. To bind his head plate with holiness and put on the Urim V'Tumim. Leishev B'chvuda Penima Yamim Shiv'ah. To sit in glory in the Beit HaMikdash for 7 days. Machazikei Amana Shavua Kodem La'asor. And to be separated a week before Yom HaKippurim. Mafrishei Kohen Harosh Kidat HaMiluim. And they would segregate the Kohen, right, according to the regulations of the inauguration service, etc. Now, why is this important? Because he said, we are biased. We assume that this must be a history of Moshe. But if you are honest, right, this last paragraph tells you what this is really a genealogy of, and that is Aharon, right? Levi, right? If you look at this as a genealogy not of Moshe but of Aharon, it makes a lot more sense. Levi, Kahat, Amram, Aharon. Aaron's children, Aaron's grandchildren. Why Korach's children? Because Korach was the one who competed against the kahuna and along with his sons. Meaning this is a story of the Kohanim and the people who challenged the kahuna, the people who thought that they should be the Kohanim and it turned out not to be. Right? Meaning Korach and his children become notable for one thing. They don't challenge Moshe, they challenge Aharon. Right? They challenge Aharon, that they want to be the Kohanim. Which means that the only people that you actually meet here, children, grandchildren, etc., are Aharon, his children, Pinchas specifically. Why Pinchas specifically? Because he's the Kohen Gadol. And all the Kohanim Gedolim come from Pinchas. And all of them come from Pinchas. They're all descended from Pinchas. And the children of Korach, because they challenge the right of the Kohen Gadol to be the Kohen Gadol. Right? So so Reb Shapira points out that it's, as much as this sounds like this is a biography of Moshe and Aharon, it's actually not. Moshe seems almost parenthetical to this discussion. But it sounds like the main character, for some reason, in this genealogy is Aharon. And therefore, I mean, it's undeniable. He's the only one who gets his children and grandchildren who have not been born yet. Right? Right? Or at least they're not significant. I don't know if Pinchas is born. It's unlikely. But if he is, he's, right, pretty young. Okay, maybe he's born. I don't know. Right? But, like, fine, maybe he's born. Right? But still, right? Meaning, like, Pinchas is not important in the story for, like, 2.5 Sfarim. But we find out now. Right? And Korach's children, for sure, have nothing to do until the middle of Bamidbar. So I think that he's right? That just like in Amitz Koach, right? Amitz Koach imagined sort of the history of the world as being a history that trends towards the Kohen Gadol, right? This particular genealogy is the genealogy that trends towards the Kahuna or the Kahuna Gedola. The question of why that's true, right? So I was convinced by his analysis that this is the case, because I think when you actually read it, it seems undeniable that Aharon is the main character here. Why, in God's name, this happens here is a very good question, which is not totally clear. There are certain things that suggest themselves. What I think is probably the simplest is that, what are the next psukim? Hu Aharon Moshe asher amar Adonai lehem otziu bnei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim al sivotam. Hema midabrim el Paro melech Mitzrayim lo tziu bnei Yisrael mi'Mitzrayim hu Moshe v'Aharon. Right? This is the genealogy of the people who speak to Paro, except who actually speaks to Paro? Aharon. Right? Aharon is Niviecha. Moshe doesn't really talk. Why? Because, as it says in this unit, Vaydaber Adonai al Moshe lemor, Ani Adonai daber el Paro, melech Mitzrayim kol asher ani dover elecha. Go and speak to Paro, and Pasuk Lamed, Vayomer Moshe levnei Adonai, Hein ani ral savatayim ve'ech yishma elai Paro. Moshe said, I can't talk. So this is the story of the person who's speaking to Paro. Like, sure, Moshe has to be there because Moshe is like the hero, but the person actually talking is not Moshe. It's Aharon. Right? So I think the simplest answer is that. There may be a lot of theological things going on here as well, which is, in different ways, I think you could suggest different things. We could throw out a few. It could be that at some level, like you see from Amitz Koach, it is this role of Aharon, of being the speaker, right? That makes it that Aharon inherits the Kahuna Gedola, right? That being the person Kodesh Kodashim who communicates to God on a consistent basis. At some level, it could be the fulfillment of the having been the speaker to Paro, right? The fact that that's his role could be that forever he is, right? He's in that role, in that intimate role, right? It could be that what's represented by the Kahuna Gedola, right? This continuing relationship with God in this intimate way is what is manifest here for the first time, right? The fact that God saves the Jewish people because of his commitment to them, right? It could be that closeness continues to be manifest in the Kodesh Kodashim through the institution of Kahuna. And we can point to different Midrashim that really point this, and Rav Shapiro really does sort of go through some of the Midrashim and point out how at this moment there are certain factors that are going on that the Kahuna will continue to manifest. And I think we can think about different ones. Again, I think the simplest and pshat, once you point it out, is simply that the key here is the Midabrim, and Aharon is the main Midaber, Moshe is secondary. Right? But again, I do think there are theological things that you could draw from this analysis, which I think Rav Shapiro is right, does appear from the Piyut on Yom Kippur, where there's this idea that history trends towards the Kahuna Gedola. Obviously, now, right, he talks about different things. I'll just throw out sort of his ideas, which again get very midrashic, but certain ideas like Yetziat Mitzrayim is imagined as part of the marriage of God and the Jewish people, right? Lech Tech Acharei Midbar, right? You came afterwards, but it's like, right, Ahavat Kluloteh, right? It's the love of your early marriage. And the place in which God's marriage to the Jews is manifest is in the Mishkan, right? The imagery of the Mishkan is meant to be the marriage, right? That's when we go into the Kodesh Kodashim, the place of the intimacy, the Kruvim, when God and the Jews are close, are in an embrace, right? This place of God's intimacy and marriage, right? The Mishkan is our home with God. So it could be that Yetziat Mitzrayim, which is where we manifest that marriage relationship, since it's going to be continued in the Mishkan, the Kahuna has a unique representative role, and therefore, right as Hashem is about to basically put himself out there for us and initiate that relationship, right? We already start talking about the kahuna, which is going to continue the intensity of that relationship. So, right, there is a lot going on there where the kahuna is central. I don't think we should exhaust it, but I do think it's important to realize that this does seem to be true, right? That this, as important as Moshe is, he is the main character for some reason in Perek Vav in Vayera seems to be Aharon and not Moshe. Okay?